Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is a new Indiana Jones video game developed by Machine Games and published by Bethesda. It is out now on Xbox Series X and PC. It will be out later next year on the PlayStation 5. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle takes place in 1937 as Indiana Jones attempts to thwart various groups who are seeking to harness a power connected to the Great Circle, which refers to mysterious sites around the world that form a perfect circle when connected together on a map. Certain locations in this game include Shanghai, the Vatican City, Egypt, and Thailand. This was really an anticipated game for me. I played maybe one of the point and click games like Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb or something way back on like 1999 Windows or something, but I haven't played a console game. I have briefly actually played Staff of Kings for the Wii, but I wasn't very fond of that. So I was really looking forward to seeing what Machine Games, the developers of the Wolfenstein series, were going to bring to Indiana Jones. And there was a lot of controversy surrounding this game since it's in first person. Why is it in first person? Well, let me talk about the first person, and I'll talk about that as we go along. But to me, this is a fantastic game. This exceeded expectations. If you are somebody who was very disappointed with both Kingdom of the Crystal Skull and Dial of Destiny, in your headcanon, if you play this game, you might actually think of this as the actual fourth Indiana Jones movie. Because this game, it's like the Uncharted games. It plays out like a movie. It feels like this big cinematic experience that you play. You play as Indiana Jones, but there's so many scenes where it doesn't feel like it takes the controls out of your hands. It does feel like you are playing a gigantic movie, because you could get to one certain location and then a cutscene will happen, but then it'll put the controls right back in your hands. And I actually like that it gives you the ability to control a lot of the big moments in the game as Indiana Jones instead of just having them play out as cutscenes. The Harrison Ford model that they use is on full display in the cutscenes. Like I said, the cutscenes are really filmed to make it feel like you are watching an Indiana Jones movie, which is really beneficial, because if you're playing this game and you have somebody in your household who's not a big fan of games and they're just like, oh, I'll just watch you play for a minute, they might get immersed into watching you play this game because it does feel very cinematic. It feels like a movie. So they might be enamored for hours and hours just watching you punch Nazis and fascists in the face. It's something so gratifying in this game that you're Indiana Jones and you get to punch Nazis in the face, and it's awesome, and it feels so good after. You're like, you're Indiana Jones, those Nazis up. The Harrison Ford model is on full display here. I don't know what they were using for a reference point, if it was Raiders or Last Crusade, but it looks spot on. What they can do with animation in video games now is completely beyond me, because there are so many instances in this video game, and I'm going to talk some spoilers here. If you haven't played Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, this is your fair warning for spoilers. The opening of the game is actually the opening scene of Raiders of the Lost Ark, and in that moment, I was like, okay, this game's going to be amazing, because in the cutscenes, they got the facial animations down. You know, sometimes in games, when people are talking, it doesn't look like their lips are matching up to what they're saying. It just looks like the lips are moving. In here, they match up to what they're saying, and they just got all the expressions that Harrison Ford does down pat, like his little smiles, his little mannerisms, like the finger point, like that type of thing.
Here.
That's what scares me. Thousands of years of humanity's thoughts and beliefs.
The way he looks when he's at Marshall College, it's insane the amount of detail that they have for reference points to try and make this feel as much of Indiana Jones as possible. And a lot of that is due to Troy Baker voicing Indiana Jones. He is perfect. There are so many moments where I was like, is that Harrison Ford? Like, it sounds so much like Harrison Ford. I could not believe my eyes. There's a lot of adventuring in this game. There's a lot of puzzle solving, and the puzzles are never too challenging. They're just right. The difficulty is there. Like, you might get frustrated, but you're never going to get too frustrated because there are hints throughout the game. I do like how the game is able to give you hints. You have to use your camera and you can zoom in on certain objects, and Indy will literally blurt out some stuff where he tells you like you have to do this, or here's this clue, here's something that we can use to try and pry this open. A lot of the game is a lot of adventuring like that. If you're going into an Indiana Jones video game looking for high stakes action, you're not really going to get that with this game. That might be a detriment to some people. And for a while, it was a detriment to my experience because an Indiana Jones movie has to keep moving. Indiana Jones movies are supposed to be fast paced, other than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which I think is slow as shit. But my point being, each Indiana Jones movie has a standout action sequence. You have the truck chase in Raiders. You have the minecart chase in Temple. You have the tank chase in Crusade. You have the Tangier's tuk-tuk chase in Dial of Destiny. And oh, fuck it. You have the motorcycle chase in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Like, those are all standout action scenes in their respective movies and in the series. It takes a good while to get to a gigantic or enormous action set piece in this game. I would say once you get to the second half or towards the end of the second half of the game, that's where the action really explodes because there's an awesome plane chase in Shanghai in the middle of the war. You have to control Indy and you're shooting down planes and it's really awesome. And then there's another boat chase later on in the game. Those were the big action set pieces to me, but up until then, it's not really a big action oriented game. It's more stealth based. You still get to punch Nazis and fascists in the face, of course, but don't go into this game expecting something as this big action spectacle. It's an adventure game. It's not an action game. I guess there's been a term that's been going around from reviewers that have reviewed the game that it's more of an adventure action game, and I would say that. I would say more of an adventure stealth action game because you do have to be really stealthy. The AI is really good. They can detect you. They're not stupid AI. They will look for you. They will look in places that you previously were. If they saw you there, they'll mention some stuff to their other goonies there that maybe they saw something, and then they'll start patrolling in different patterns. They really put the time and effort and detail into not making it so repetitive. Yeah, maybe going through certain things like trying to get to a certain place and you have to be stealthy and you have to be aware of where the guards are situated and you have to be aware of them not seeing you. That might be a little bit difficult to navigate at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's actually pretty easy. This is a game too that gives you the option to keep things highlighted in certain colors. Like if you have objects that need to be moved, I think you can have it highlighted in a certain color. You can have enemies tagged in a certain color. You can also turn all that off so that it makes it a little bit more cinematic for you if that's not how you play. But if you are one of those people who's like, I don't know about the difficulty of this game, you can have all that stuff turned on so that it's easier to see where the guards are, what their paths are. There's also a couple moments where it does make you do a couple of side things, but it's never in your face about it. It's not like, oh, you gotta do all the side stuff and level up to continue the game. No, it's a very linear game, I will say. But there are enough paths to explore. There's enough side content to do. You can do side content. There's stuff called field work that branches onto the main storyline, but you don't necessarily have to do it unless if you have to get a couple of objects. Like early in the game, you have to buy a camera in the Vatican City, and later in the game, you have to buy this breathalyzer. Of course, those are the moments where they force you to actually do some side stuff and be like, okay, you got to go find some currency to buy those. But you have other stuff you can do. You can investigate other tombs. You can help other people around the city and all that. There's also a really interesting, going back to the guards see you type of thing. There's also a really interesting type of thing here where there's certain parts of the game where Indy has to be dressed in disguise, so most of the guards won't notice. But if there's a captain, he will see through Indy's disguise. So you got to make sure that you are not seen by that captain if you're just perusing the city. Like if you're perusing the pyramids of Giza or something and a captain sees you, you'll notice it because he'll blow his whistle and he'll start coming after you. He'll see right through your disguise. If you're not dressed in your regular Indy clothes and you're dressed in your disguise, he'll see right through it, so be careful. Let's talk about the first person. It did take a little bit to get used to playing as Indiana Jones in the first person, but I think that that's really offset by all of the cutscenes because I felt like, okay, they're obviously doing this to be different from Tomb Raider, Uncharted. They don't want to keep copying that type of stuff. And Machine Games has developed first person shooters before, as I said, the Wolfenstein games. So they're more used to doing that. It didn't really bother me after a while because, like I said, it's the cutscenes. You could see the full blown Indiana Jones model in the cutscenes that make it feel like you're playing a movie. And it's really, really well done. It feels very seamless transitioning back and forth. There are textures and moments, like if you use your whip to climb up something where it does shift into third person. So it's not always in first person, but it did take a little bit to get used to. I would say probably after that opening prologue where you play the opening scene of Raiders, after that, I think I got used to it. And I don't think they could have made this game in third person. I don't think playing it now, playing it all the way through, I don't think it would have made sense to have this game in third person. The ending of this game is gonna might cause some controversy with the story because I know everybody's gonna be like, oh, that's so far fetched. But yeah, is it as more far fetched as Aliens and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull or time travel in Dial of Destiny? Or is it even as far fetched as Raiders of the Lost Ark, like opening the Ark of the Covenant and having your face melt off? I really don't think so. This is a true Indiana Jones adventure. For those that were very disappointed with the last few movies, I think you'll be really riveted by this game despite a slower pace and not a lot of action set pieces in the first half to first two-thirds of the game. But it's still a very exciting game. It kept me hooked, even with its slower pace. I think it's because I am a fan of Indiana Jones, and I think it's because I was investigating and doing all these different puzzles and trying to get to these places before the Nazis did and punching Nazis and fascists in the face. It made for a really fun experience, and it felt like I was playing an Indiana Jones movie. There's a lot of great voice acting in here. If you do get the chance to play it, I don't know when it's coming out on PS5 if you only have a PS5, but if you do have an Xbox Series X or PC, definitely get the chance to play it. I know it's on Game Pass right now. There's probably a lot of things that I'm missing that I didn't talk about because as I'm a movie reviewer, I'm not a video game reviewer, but every once in a while I do play a video game I love, and I really like to review video games sometimes too. And this is one that I knew I had to talk about, especially since I'm a big fan of Indiana Jones, and this felt like an Indiana Jones movie. I am going to give Indiana Jones and the Great Circle a 9.5 out of 10. This is a really good game despite the slow pace and the lack of action set pieces, but it does have those standout action set pieces that an Indiana Jones movie should have later on in the game, and it gets really riveting at that part of the game. It's so much fun throughout. I really hope you guys get to experience this, or if you have somebody that is playing the game, watch them play it because it'll be like an Indiana Jones movie. So if you guys have played Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, let me know what you think of it in the comments section below. I will leave my link to my website in the description below as well. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. My name is Alex Madden, and I will see you at the movies somewhere.